What's going on, everyone? So, I have not seen the new Dandadan episode yet, but I wanted to talk about Jiji. I want to talk about Jiji because even before his anime introduction, I've already seen a lot of discourse surrounding his character, um, particularly with his recent scene in one of the more recent chapters of the manga. And I've been seeing the same conversation with Jiji for a while now. It keeps coming up again and again and again, and my guess is that when he pops up in the anime, these kinds of conversations are only going to continue. So the reason I want to have this conversation tonight is I've seen conversations on Twitter where people in comments on my videos where people either love Jiji or they think he's like the worst character ever. So I've seen conversations on Twitter here, I've seen conversations on YouTube there. I want to get a feel for what everyone here feels about Jiji, and I want to kind of explore the different parts of his character and see like where everyone feels, and maybe talk about uh, what he shares with other characters. Um, we'll give everyone a few minutes, but I want to start actually by asking, how do people like Aira? How do people like Aira if you're an anime only? How do you like Aira in last week's episode and then today's episode? Because I'm going to watch it right after this stream, but today's episode should have been the one where it should have been the one where she kisses or tries to kiss Okarun. So I have not been on Twitter today. I haven't really seen the discourse. I've seen everything up to today. And I know that, people kind of did a 180 on Aira. People were like, wow, what a bitch. And then, especially with how well they nailed that episode, people were like, oh my God, this is such a good character. And like, to be fair, the flashback isn't even about her. It's about her mom. It's about acrobatic Silky. So what do people think about Aira? And we're gonna go talk about Jiji after, but I want to kind of segue into that, because they're both characters that I've seen people like come back and forth. So we have DC saying, as someone that's an anime only, you really dislike her. So let me ask you this. What do you dislike about her? Chill Guy says, I think Jiji is definitely the least interesting character in the series. Yeah, I think that's kind of where people are coming from when they say they don't like Jiji. I've never really seen someone come right out and say he's a bad character, but usually it's something along the lines of like, like what is the point of his character, or like, when is he gonna learn, right? Is the shipping discourse? Not necessarily shipping, but that is a big part of it. Again, because Dandadan is so much of a romance, and because the romance is such an integral part of the story, you can't really talk about like the characters' roles in the story and not also talk about the romance. Yeah. She wasn't likable at that part of the story. I mean, she definitely becomes likable, for sure. But, I mean, she's supposed to be, like, a bitch. We have Paul, who said, I like Aira. Maybe that's because I read the manga, but I like her anime appearances too. So, for the most part, I think manga fans really like Aira. I don't think the majority of Dandadan fans who read the manga and are caught up on the manga dislike Aira. So, here's what I think one of the big differences is. So, someone might bring up the point of like, well, you can't really like Aira if you dislike Jiji, or excuse me, you can't say you dislike Jiji if you like Aira, because they do the same thing. Like, they both are romantic rivals, and especially Aira. Like, Aira is like all over Okarun, right? So if anything, you should dislike Aira more. Whereas with Jiji, you know, he doesn't really, especially in the more recent arcs, it's not like he makes a pass at Momo. He's not like, you know, like, I don't know, playing with her hair or kissing her or anything like that. So you could say, well, Aira does the same thing as Jiji, so how come people, you know, find Jiji annoying but not Aira? The difference with Aira is, with Aira, it doesn't seem as harmful. Like, it's not as much of a threat. And here's what I mean. So with Aira, right, she clearly is very much, like, she still has her big crush on Okarun. But the difference is, it's not a threat. Like, when you look at Okarun's reaction, he's never like, oh my god, do I like Momo? Do I like Aira? Do I like Aira? Do I like Momo? Right? Like, it's annoying because we know it's not going anywhere. Thank you to Blazing Pasta for the subscription. I kind of want pasta for dinner myself. Anyway, yeah, so, like, you don't take it seriously. It is annoying in the sense of, like, it's a recurring gag and it kind of gets old, but it's also funny. With Jiji, it's not so much that, you know, you take it any more or less serious, but whereas Aira is, like, infatuated with Okarun, but, like, it doesn't seem like a deep love, Jiji will have moments where he seems to be, like, in love with Momo, like, seriously in love with Momo, like, in a vulnerable, emotional kind of way that's very different from how Aira interacts with Okarun. And the other part to that is Momo almost kind of feels it, right? Like, she still very much likes Okarun. Nobody questions that. But whenever we get these moments with Jiji, it does kind of feel like for a second, like, oh, is she doubting herself here? Not so much the most recent one. That one felt like the least romantic. But I mean, in the alien arc, when he kind of makes like a confession and he gets all embarrassed and they're sharing a blanket, it was like, that's a little sus. And the other reason the reason I say that's more of a threat is because, like, that's more of an emotional thing. That's like he's really, like, in love with her. And the reason that feels shittier, for a lack of a better term, is because, like, with Aira, her and Momo are good friends. They're like sisters at this point. But they're also, like, they butt heads all the time. So for them to fight over the same guy kind of makes sense. With Jiji, the fact that he kind of, like, likes Momo secretly almost feels worse, because he's, like, not being honest about it with Okarun, and it feels like he's kind of going behind Okarun's back. To be fair, it's not like he's never said that he's going to step off and then he just does it anyway. But it's like, it's this weird execution where like Jiji kind of seems like he drops it after the big, the evil eye arc, right? And then like he has these moments where he like comes back, and it's like this constant like will he, won't he. um so yeah, I think part of why people have an issue with Gigi is because it kind of feels like he's going behind Okarune's back, you know, like there's he Okarune even said like, wow, he's my first guy friend, right? And that means something to him. He like tries to hate Gigi in the beginning, but he's like, you know, he's like such a cool dude, and he's like genuinely trying to be my friend. Like, I can't hate him. And yet at the same time, you have Gigi having these like, I guess, intimate emotional moments with Momo that's like almost worse than like Aira saying, hey Okarune, you should take your shirt off. Like, it almost feels worse. But that being said, even though we don't know it's going anywhere, or actually, so because you know it's probably not going to go anywhere, excuse me, let me say this again. Despite the fact that it's not going to go anywhere with Momo and Gigi, it still feels like kind of a betrayal for him to like still have these feelings for her and not be honest about them with her or Okarune, right? And not just like man up about it. And because, so that's despite, but also because we know it's really not going to go anywhere, it kind of just feels like, you know, what's the point? Like in the recent chapter, when he says what he says about Momo, I was kind of just like, what's the point, right? Like people on Twitter reacted to that chapter. They're like, oh, if you look, like you don't really see like a super romantic reaction from Momo. So Momo's not feeling it. And I mean, you see memes on Twitter and on Reddit, I'm sure, all the time of people like doing the meme of Okarune pushing him away. And the caption is like, bro, she's good, right? Like, leave her alone. She's good. So everyone knows that it's not going to go anywhere, and everyone can see that Momo's not really into him. So for him to like continue to have these kinds of scenes just feels pointless, like objectively. Like, what is the point, right? Like it just feels like we keep getting these scenes where he's like, oh, you know, I really care about Momo, and he's had like 2 or 3 big moments like this now after the Evil Eye arc. And I'm just like, okay, what is this building up to? Like, it feels like we have this romantic tension from him, and it's a one-sided thing. And just based on this trajectory, like, I don't see this going anywhere. Like, if Dandadan ended in 6 months, I really do not see any kind of scene where there's any kind of romantic tension between Momo and Gigi, where Momo's like, you know, I really like Okarune, but I also like Gigi. You know, like, what am I going to do, right? Like, it's not Twilight. It doesn't feel like Twilight at all. So the more it happens, the more I'm just like, what is the point of Gigi? Like, Gigi is one of my favorite characters. If it wasn't for these flaws that I'm bringing up now, he would probably be my number 1 favorite character. I think it's important that he's like the male best friend of Okarune. I think that fleshes out Okarune's character. I also like that he's like the goofy kid. He has this like he has this dynamic of like being not the jock, but like the tall kid who's, you know, the pretty boy, but also he's a dork and he's a goofball, and he's like kind of the dummy of the group. Not like a dummy, but like he's the silly goose of the group. And I think that dynamic is essential in this group of characters, and it would not be excuse me, it would not be, you wouldn't have quite the level of chemistry without him. I think he's an invaluable asset to this group of characters. So I definitely think he plays a good role in the story. But I feel like, as much as I would love to give Dandadan a 10 out of 10, because I do think it's one of the best ongoing manga right now, I think this thing with Jiji, while I would never say he's a bad character, I think he's one of Dandadan's biggest ongoing, I don't even want to say flaws, because I think depending on how Tatsu handles his character arc, I think Jiji could, not even be considered a flaw in the story. It just feels like it right now because we haven't seen the whole story yet. But he's definitely like the most confusing part of Dandadan, which is hilarious to say about a story with like aliens and cryptids and balls, right? Like, how does Okarun not just bleed out when he's missing his balls, right? Like, we understand that more than what we understand about Jiji's romantic life. I don't think he's a bad character, but some parts of his character feel inconsistent with his personality and also the general arc of the story. So he's inconsistent and it's just confusing. Like, I'm really not sure what Tatsu is planning to do with this character. I think he had a very clearly defined role when he was first introduced, and now he kind of just feels like a side character. That's really all I can say. Justin, what's going on? Thanks for making it out to the stream. I'm sure it might be late for you, but appreciate it. Glad to have you as a regular of the streams. I've seen a lot of people talking about how Jiji is a terrible character because he is a threat to Momo in Okarun's relationship, but that's also true with Aira. That doesn't make them bad. So, again, like I said before, it's not... So the difference between those two characters, and it's the reason I started by talking about Aira, is because the difference is Aira isn't even a threat. Like, we know she's not a threat, because not once has Okarun, expressed any romantic interest in Aira. He's always been crazy for Momo. And only Momo. Like, another girl could kiss him and he would still be thinking about Momo. And the other thing is, like, Aira doesn't try to be like sneaky about it. The difference is with Jiji, it does, like, there is like an implicit like risk with him, so it feels more dangerous. And then the other part of it is it feels duplicitous with him. Because especially recently, he does it whenever Okarun isn't around. So it feels like he's being sneaky about it, even if like he's not trying to be. So it feels like a betrayal in a way, which is very inconsistent with this character. So that's a good point. Brian LaRue says Aira and Jiji are used to kickstart the relationship, but so far only Aira has had any significant character change. I think that's a great way of putting it. Aira, while still infatuated with Okarun, has had some pretty notable character change, and she's grown as the leader of this group. Jiji just kind of, he's on his same bullshit. And while he did have a cool moment in the battle against the aliens, it didn't really feel like a huge character growth moment. It just kind of felt like, he powered up, right? Like he grew in that way, but he didn't feel, you know, like notably different as a character. So Toad Sage, I think, puts it perfectly. I would probably steal this myself. I think it's because Aira's advances are presented and treated as a joke, but Jiji's is more sincere and genuine. So the only change I would say to that is Aira's aren't taken seriously, but Jiji's are. Or in other words, Aira's are so absurd and over the top that it's unrealistic, whereas with Jiji, it genuinely feels like he's making a move on Momo. Like it feels real with him. And because of that, it feels like a betrayal. But I think Toad Sage hit the nail on the head. So we have Alves, who says, I thought Jiji was just fine when I was reading the series. Aira actively frustrated me so much, though. One of my least favorite anime manga characters. So, Alves, I'll ask you this. Regardless of where you are in the manga, what do you find frustrating about Aira that separates her from a character like Jiji? Because really the only thing I don't like about Aira is the advances on Okarun. I think it's kind of annoying, but the only reason I think it's annoying is because it's a running gag that isn't necessarily funny all the time. Did I already watch the new episode? No. I've been watching the movie Ford versus Ferrari for the first time. Great movie, by the way. Matt Damon's good in it. I think Christian Bale is the star of the movie for sure. The directing is good too. James Mangold, I think is his name, the director. But it's a great story, and it's genuinely one of the best movies I've seen in a while. So if you like Matt Damon or Christian Bale, or you really like cars, especially, the big fancy European races, or if you just want to watch like a biopic, like a historical movie, definitely check out Ford versus Ferrari. I'm watching it on Hulu for anyone who would want to stream it. So somebody made this, we were talking about this in the last stream. Somebody made this comparison, and I want to read it because I think Toad Sage makes a really good point. I'd say Aira's advances towards Okarun are treated as a gag in the same way that Juvia's advances towards Gray throughout most of Fairy Tail are treated as a gag. I think that is like the best way of putting it, is with Aira, it feels more like a running gag, whereas with Jiji, it feels like a serious plot point that's executed in an unserious way. And I say unserious because it's like, where is it really going? Like it's kind of self-defeating. But with Aira, because it's so silly and ridiculous, like you're able to laugh at it, even if it's really not that funny. I think Jiji versus Okarun will be a thing at some point. I think it'll be a device used to deepen their relationship. I mean this seriously, right hand to God. I really hope that Jiji and Okarun have some kind of one-on-one, because it just feels like Jiji is going to keep doing this, and I think he needs to either have a confrontation with Okarun or he needs to have a one-on-one with Momo. And in that latter case, Momo tell him, yeah, sorry, I love Okarun, so it's not going to happen. I don't think he ever meant it in a particularly romantic way. I would be open to persuasion, but I really don't know how you could reach that conclusion. Isn't it just because of the ships? Absolutely not. It is 100% a real thing. All the hate to both Aira and Jiji are ships, like the people who are pushing the ships. So that's definitely part of it. But even as someone who's like not a huge shipper, but has been following the manga for, 2 years now, I just think, I think it's getting to a point where Tatsu's got to change up how he treats the obstacles to the romantic aspect of the story, because I think we're kind of over the romantic rival stuff. I think we're kind of over it. I think, Aira played her role as a romantic rival. I think with Aira, the only reason it still kind of works, even if it's not that funny, is because it kind of plays out as like not just a romantic rivalry, but like a genuine sister type rivalry with Momo. So whenever she's doing it, it's almost like a reminder that like she's so much like Momo. But with Jiji, it just feels like, he was a huge romantic rival in his introduction, but now we're just so beyond that point that it's like, it kind of just feels stupid. It feels pointless. What do I think will end up happening to Jiji in the future? What I would like to see, so I'll tell you what I hope happens, and then I'll tell you what I think will happen. What I hope happens is that at some point in the story, I hope that at some point in the story, we have some kind of closure, right? Either between Jiji and Momo or Jiji and Okarun, where like they just come out with it and they're like, all right, this is how I feel, this is how you feel, what are we gonna do here? And they have closure, because let's be honest, we all know Okarun and Momo are gonna end up together by the end of the manga. So, and we already know that they're like madly in love with each other. So to have a character who is friends with both of these characters still have these moments where he's like, oh, I really care about her. It's like, what is the point? That's what I hope happens, is that there's some kind of closure. What I think might happen, and I really hope it doesn't, but what I think might happen is that nothing comes of any of this and it just gets kind of dropped. Like, let's say the recent one that happened is like the last one. So by the time we end the manga, Jiji will have never said anything about Momo again romantically, and it's just never addressed. And the reason I hope that doesn't happen is because people will look back on that and be like, what the F was the point? Like, literally, what was the point of Jiji saying he likes Momo before the big fight against the aliens? And what the F was the point about Jiji saying he likes Momo to the MILF nurse, the cougar nurse, whatever we want to call her. So yeah, I think it's perfectly understandable why people are kind of pissed off with Jiji, because I think he has the potential to be Dandadan's single best character, but it doesn't feel like Tatsu is really using him to his full potential, and because of that, he just feels like an obstacle to the story and kind of a pain in the ass. Non-GG related question: how long do you think Dandadan the Last for is starting the Fairy Saga? So I talked about this the other day. I think Dandadan is gonna go on for something like 300 chapters, so it'll end around chapter 300-ish, maybe like 320, because we're on, I keep forgetting, What are we on? Like 140 something? Let's see. $175. So we have, that would mean if we had 300 chapters total, that would mean we have 125 chapters, which at like 40 something, let's say 45, that would mean we'd have at least another 3 years. And it's been 3 years already. So that would mean Dandadan would be like 6 years old once it ends, which I think is pretty fair. I think 6 years is a really long time. So for Dandadan to end around 300 chapters, I think would be pretty safe. That would also put it at like roughly the same length as a manga like Fire Force, which was a big long-running series for Weekly Shonen magazine. So I think for a series like Dandadan, which is big but not that big, I think it's comparable to something like Fire Force. And we also feel like we've hit the halfway point, roughly, maybe a little past it. So if we're at chapter 175, chapter 300 would be like just short of like double where we are now. So I think maybe chapter 300, chapter 320, something like that. That's my guess. I really don't see it ending in less than like 250 chapters. I can't even get past episode 5 of Dandadan. Ken is too annoying in my opinion. Okay. So first, I'm going to start a poll. Second of all, I don't hate that take. I actually appreciate that take because it's the first time I'm seeing it. That being said, I don't really see what you can find annoying about Okarun. So I'll ask you this, Nobushi Dono. What do you find annoying about Ken? And while I wait for you to share your valuable input, I am going to share a poll with everyone. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. Start a poll. Wrong one. When do you think Jiji will get his big moment? Because hasn't he had a major part for a couple of arcs? And in what way? I don't know. What I would like to see happen is that he either syncs perfectly with Evil Eye and he can kind of hybrid form with Evil Eye like the other characters can, or he's able to combine his spirit powers and his Evil Eye powers. I think that would be dope. But again, like, he almost feels irrelevant in fights, so I'm just like, are we even gonna get anything more with him? Like, that's where I'm at with the story, is I don't really feel like Tatsu has any big plans for him, which is disappointing. Justin, why'd you remind me? Oh, you son of a bitch. I just realized Dandadan is going to be on break for a couple of weeks. Oh, I hate it. I mean, it's good. I think Tatsu only goes on break like maybe 3 times a year, tops. So it is good that he's taking breaks. That being said, if I had my way, Dandadan would never go on break. So Nobushi said, Okarun is annoying, and I said, why? What makes you say that? He said, stereotypical nerd trope reminds me of Steve Hughes' bit about the rise of the Revenge of the Nerds films in the 1980s. Yeah, but the difference there is like, and again, I'm not familiar with that bit, but the difference is like he's not a jaded nerd. He's not a resentful nerd. So like him being a nerd isn't his whole identity, I guess. So Piero said, I hope Dandadan doesn't end up being a victim of a bad ending. We already got enough bad endings in the current new gen. I would be shocked if Dandadan had a bad ending, only because Dandadan is one of the few series that I feel genuinely doesn't have a bad arc, and I really do feel like it only gets better and better. So, I don't know, just like my gut feeling right now is that just based off of Tatsu's track record, I really don't see Dandadan flopping. Tanj wants to know, which do I like more, Kagurabachi, Sakamoto Days, or Dandadan? Dandadan. I like Sakamoto Days, but the plot kind of lost me, so I took a big break from it, and recently I've been trying to catch up. I'm still behind, but especially after I did that recent video, I've really kind of like rediscovered my appreciation for Sakamoto Days. And I really like Kagurabachi, but I like the chill vibes and the silliness and the art, honestly, of Dandadan better. Wasn't learning how to use Evil Eye, the evil gun, the last time Jiji had any substantial development. Yeah, pretty much. And even then, I wouldn't even call that character growth. Would I say Jiji is my least favorite main character? I was excited for his character since I'm anime only. So I will say this. I really like his introduction, and I think he has a amazing part to play in his initial arc of like the Evil Eye arc. So I would definitely be excited for him in the anime. I think they're going to kill it with him in the anime. Also, if you follow the dub, he's going to be voiced by Alex Lee, which if you're not familiar with Alex Lee, he's the voice of Luke in Street Fighter 6. I know he voices other characters, but he also is the voice of Sung Woo in the English dub for Solo Leveling. So he's definitely got a good dub voice actor if you follow the dub. Do you really think Count Saint Germain is the final villain? That's what it feels like it's building up to be. I mean, so far he's been the perpetrator of like every recent like event, like every recent battle. He's been the guy who put it in motion. So it feels like he's being built up to be the final villain. That being said, there's still other lingering threats. Like the aliens could always come back and attack Earth. And we also have to remember that the subterraneans are still a thing. So we don't know if they might come back into the main plot. I think Dandadan is going to have a great ending like Fire Force did. Yes, but I would be shocked. Well, not shocked, but I would be pleasantly surprised if Dandadan's ending was better than Fire Force's, because Fire Force has one of the best endings in all of manga. Genuinely, objectively, one of the best endings in a story, not just manga, but like movies, video games, whatever. Best written endings of all time. Yeah, Nobushi, I can kind of see where you're coming from. Like, even if I like that trope, I can kind of get the sentiment of like, you know, you feel like it's overplayed, like you feel like it's over-represented to the point of being redundant or stale, or we'll make this the vocab word of the day, Jejun. It's a Jejun take on social outcasts, if you will. What do I have in my this is supposed to be a fantasy playlist and it's playing Jingle Bells. Let's go now that I'm on Spotify. There we go. Yeah, Jejun. I learned that from the Justice League cartoon, the first one. From what the hell is the villain's name? God damn it. It's the one from the Christmas episode where the Flash stops the villain and then the villain builds a toy for all the kids at the orphanage. What that human something. This is going to bother me now that I can't remember that, because I actually like this villain. I'm not like a huge DC Comics guy, but I really like the cartoon and I really like this character. Humanite? Is that his name? Ultra Humanite. Now I know how to pronounce the word, but I forget how you spell it. I think it's Jejun. I'll look it up because now it's going to bother me that I like half-ass know what it is. So I was one letter off. Vocab word of the day. I'll put it in chat. Jejun. Naive, simplistic, and superficial. That's right, folks. You thought you were just going to be talking about Dandadan, but I'm edumacating everyone. Let's go to Merriam-Webster. Devoid of significance or interest. Dull. Dry and uninteresting is another definition. So basically, if you want to tell someone that their answer was so brain dead and so predictably simple that it borderlines unscripted, tell them that their opinion was Jejun. And you can thank the Justice League animated series for that. Which, by the way, was in the Christmas episode. So, get excited for Christmas. I actually love Evil Eye. That part with him at school was amazing. Yeah. the one where he's like sitting at the desk. Dude, I felt that so hard when Evil Eye was like drawing on the piece of paper and he was absolutely murdering the piece of paper with that crayon or pen or whatever he had. I don't know how many times I was sitting at school and I was either just pissed off or like so like ADHD about like wanting to get out of class that I just took a piece of paper and I just ripped it to all hell. Let's look at my poll. How are we doing with that? So interesting. Out of 12 votes, a substantial portion, 25% of people call him Ken Takakura. That is interesting. Yeah, I kind of find that funny, but that like people feel the impulse to call him Ken Takakura. I think when he officially becomes Okarun to the fan base is when more of the friends start calling him Okarun, because Seiko calls him Ken Takakura. Turbo Granny doesn't call him anything. She just calls him a dumbass. Momo calls him Okarun. Aira calls him Ken Takakura. So I don't think he officially becomes Okarun until Jiji. Surprisingly enough. So, you know, add a point to Jiji for officializing, I guess, if I just made up a word. Probably did. Validating, if you will, Okarun's nickname. Yeah, okay. I can get that point too. Like, it feels a bit disingenuous or superficial or maybe hollow. Nobushi saying overplayed might be the wrong word. Steve Hughes' bit was about how corporations use outcasts to further their agendas. Yeah, I can get that. That's really all I have to say about Jiji. So it seems like, based on what I'm hearing from everyone in the chat, so I'm still going to post a video about this. It'll be later down the line, but it will be in the near future, definitely before the end of the year. I want to post a video talking about Jiji's role in the story. But it feels like, for the most part, people don't hate him. They just don't really get where his character is going. And so he feels somewhat either confusing or annoying. But I am relieved that, like, for the most part, people don't really hate him, because he is genuinely one of my favorite characters. I just think he isn't being used to his full potential. Do I think that Evil Eye could beat Seiko? It depends, right? Because if we're assuming we're in her territory where she has her spiritual powers, I think Evil Eye in his Jiji form would probably beat Seiko. That being said, again, it depends, because she did beat Turbo Granny when Turbo Granny was in her, like, Okarun Berserk form. So I'd say it's like 50-50. But with all that being said, I really don't have too much more to say. I will just end the stream by saying that I'm genuinely happy with where the manga is right now. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. I'm really happy with where the anime is. I thought the anime was going to be like this irrelevant side thing that, like, only, 1,000 people watched. But it seems to be the biggest anime of the season, and quite arguably the best anime of the year. Unfortunately, because of Crunchyroll and their silly rules, it will not appear in the upcoming Crunchyroll Awards because it's a fall anime, so it'll fall into the following one, not the next one. But if you ask me, what do I think was the best anime of the year, I'm going to have to talk about Dandadan. I don't know if Dandadan would be number one, but I mean, it's definitely a number one contender for sure. But yeah, that on top of the fact that the manga is doing really good right now. I really liked the new character with the pygmies, even though her introduction was very brief. I really liked Ouji. I think Dandadan is adding more and more unique and interesting characters. And so I'm curious to see how Tatsu keeps it up and what he does to refresh the story. So yeah, again, I've been saying it every week, but I think Dandadan fans have it unbelievably good right now. I think Dandadan fans have finally been rewarded for their patience. I can see Dandadan being a top anime. It's definitely already a top anime this season. What I am curious to see is how people start to talk about it after the first core. Like, by the end of December, will people agree that it was anime of the year? And I'm also curious to see like how fast it dies off in between core 1 and core 2. I hope they keep the same studio for season 2 and so on. If they, I would be shocked if they changed studios, but if they kick out Science Saru, I would probably not watch the second season, because Science Saru has literally and figuratively made the anime. Like, this anime would not be nearly close to the identity it has without Science Saru. Where's the first core ending? I think it's going to end like right when they get to Jiji's hometown. And then the second season will start with like when they meet the Subterraneans and the big monster, whose name I will not spoil for anime only fans. Yeah, that's true. The fact that Core 2 airs in the summer does kind of help Dandadan, but I just think it's really silly how Crunchyroll does that. I think they take way too long to, put together all the nominations, because they put out the contest in, what is it, like February, and then they don't do the awards until March. It's like, what? In what world? Don't they do the video game awards in like December? I don't know. I think it's stupid. You have the Dandadan manga on your phone, but you can't find the motivation to actually read it. So I would just wait, honestly. I think Nobushi, I think you said you're anime only. But I would honestly just wait until the first core, see how you feel. If you don't really feel that crazy about it, then that's fine. That just means, you're not really that crazy about Dandadan. The video game awards already happened, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're deciding best video games of the year in November, and yet somehow we're voting on the best anime in March of the following year. Like, how does that make sense? It especially doesn't make sense because they take so long to do the awards. Like, if they did the awards in November, I would totally understand not including the fall season. But they don't do the awards until, like, March. They don't do it until, like, spring of the next year. So, like, what the hell? I don't know. That's a rant for another time, honestly. Um, but yeah, glad to see Dandadan doing well. Glad to see nobody really hates Jiji. Yeah, so Nobushi, again, enjoy the anime. Don't let people try to like force the manga on you, or don't let like popular opinions dictate how you feel about the anime. But yeah, just if you want to read the manga, great. If not, just follow the anime. Sandy 2PS says it's my birthday today, so can we all get a happy birthday for Sandy? They should just do the awards in January or early January. Even if they did like the first week of February, I could buy that. But like they don't do it until March, right? Am I crazy? Don't they do it either like the end of February or like the beginning of March? And they say they don't have enough time to include the fall stuff? It's ridiculous. Sandy said, I caught the flu. Well, I hope you feel better soon. I don't know about your neck of the woods, but, where I live, everyone has been getting sick. I know someone who caught pneumonia, of all things. So I hope you feel better soon, and I hope you had a good birthday. But yeah, glad to see Dandadan's in a good spot, and I'm curious to see how they stick to the landing with Core 1, and I'm curious to see what happens next with the manga. Happy birthday again to Sandy. Hope you had a good birthday. Hope you feel better. Thank you to all of the beautiful people in today's stream. We had a great discussion going in today's stream, and we weren't even reviewing a chapter. Really loved the discussion. I feel like we got a lot of good points. And yeah, so we will pick things up again on Sunday. Look out for new videos tomorrow and Saturday. I believe they're both One Piece videos, but I have to take another look and see what I have scheduled. So yeah, big videos this weekend, and then Shonen Jump stream on Sunday. But yeah, if everyone will excuse me, I am going to go watch Thursday Night Football. The Browns are playing the Steelers, and I'm very curious to see who wins that game. And also, I need to finish watching Ford versus Ferrari, which again, if you have Hulu, if you're looking for a movie to watch tonight or this weekend, watch Ford versus Ferrari, one of my favorite movies. So Sandy, you said Momo is one of your favorite characters. Is your favorite character. I could be strongly persuaded to say the same. She's definitely like top 5 for me. I don't know who my favorite character is, but Momo is definitely a contender. But on that note, Justin wants to know, who am I rooting for? If you're talking about the football game, probably the Steelers, but I haven't been following any team, either of those teams. So I'm kind of just curious which team comes out on top. But anyway, we'll wrap things up. Hopefully I see everyone Sunday for the Shonen Jump stream. And thank you again for all of the great conversation. But for now, thank you for watching. And I look forward to hearing from all of you soon.